joined now by Conservative MP Sir Iain Duncan Smith. Sir Iain, thank you for your time. Your government, your Prime Minister, Defence Secretary won't say the word China out loud. Do you think that economics should trump national security?
No. I'm one of the sanctioned members of Parliament, including in the House of Lords, about 7 of us. Our families are sanctioned too, because we raised the issue of the genuine genocide of the Uyghur people in Xinjiang. So terrible atrocities going on in China. We've had this battle, though, I'm afraid, with officialdom and then with ministers. The reality, and by the way, I congratulate Sam and Sky for getting this immediately and being able to say that it was China. Others had not done that. So congratulations to Sky for doing that. But the real point is, it is almost certainly, in fact, it is certainly China that's been doing this. Bear in mind, the reason for the government is that they are, and UK, and not just UK, the whole of Europe is massively dependent now on China. You know, there's hardly a car made directly, manufactured in Europe. They're all manufactured in China, and then they're sent back to be assembled in Europe in part, if not in whole. And so all those other goods that we buy and people buy on Amazon where they don't know who's made it until they open the package, all this is part of that utter dependency on China. China knows that, and that's where it throws its weight around. America has begun to wake up to this and is now being much tougher. We've been pretty hopeless, really. I mean, just look at what happened when we know nearly 2 years ago, the Electoral Commission, with all the names and details and addresses, was hacked. We also, and nothing was said about it at the time in terms of how bad that was and who did it, until literally about 4 weeks ago, nearly a year and a half to 2 years later. And then we also know at the same time they hacked, we were told, a handful of MPs. In fact, that's not correct. They hacked between 30 and 40 MPs, many of whom were sanctioned, but others who were not. We know that for a fact now. America knew it, and America told the UK on both counts what had happened, and we still didn't say anything about this at the dispatch box until, what, about 4 or 5 weeks ago? So China is behind this, and the reluctance, I think, comes from this panic that somehow if we upset China, China will kill the business. That's not going to happen because China is itself desperate at the moment for trade. So they will blow hard at us. But we've got to recognize if we don't stand up for the defense of our freedoms, our human rights, our right to speak out if we wish it, then we will be worth nothing in the free world. And I'm afraid China is winning in this war, and we're not even prepared to accept that it is a war.
Considering everything you've just said, considering China's relationship strengthening with Russia, with Iran, with North Korea, for example, how would you describe the leadership's role as an international actor?
Well, the UK has been leading in a number of key areas. I mean, Ukraine, the Russians' invasion there, we led the way, and that was to be applauded. But we still need to give a lead on China. And I saw Mel Stride referred to the integrated review. I have to say, the terminology we use for China could have come straight out of the playbook of Yes, Prime Minister. It is so tortuous and pointless. It says that we recognize China to be an epoch-defining challenge, and we're going to deal with it with a robust pragmatism. Well, you can almost hear Sir Humphrey muttering that as the way through. China is a threat. It threatens the way we live our lives. It threatens who we are. It's part now, key part of the axis to totalitarian states, which is China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia. They're busy in the Middle East. It was through knowledge of that Iran created this problem in Gaza by encouraging the Hamas to make their attacks and all that goes with it, knowing full well the attention of the United States particularly would turn to Israel and not to Ukraine. And so that has given Russia some breathing space. All of this is part of a coordinated plan to undermine and destroy the very way we live our lives because they don't believe in democracy or freedom of speech. And all of that is going on in China, and they want to export that elsewhere. So until we wake up to the fact that everything we do with China has a very big price tag, and until we actually get down to saying, you know, this is what is happening, and we're calling China out, if we're robust with them, they will understand, and they will actually be more malleable in the end. But if we run away from them, then they will be ever more intolerant and ever more brutal.
And just briefly, Sir Iain, it was described previously that the UK cybersecurity taking on the Chinese was like a water pistol being used to tackle a house fire. How much more money, how much more investment, how much more capacity needs to be given to try and, like you say, be tough with Beijing?
I think we have to raise the Prime Minister. Well done. He has now said we're going to get to 2.5%. There are many of us who believe actually we're going to end up having to spend considerably more on defence than that. So defence is always seen in terms of tanks and guns, and is hugely obviously part of that, as you see in Ukraine. But the other side of it, which has become a huge part of this, is cyber warfare. We have to do much more to strengthen our defences, and we do much more to make sure that we can, in return, aggressively counter this. And I asked the question, for example, and I will ask it today, why is the MOD and others allowing some of their data to be held now by third parties outside of the embrace of the MOD? No matter how we think their defences are good in the private sector, the truth is right now that sort of data needs to be held inside an incredibly secure environment at the MOD, including government data too, which is so easy to get hold of. So my simple point is now we've got to up our game. We've got to be prepared to spend more, but we've got to recognize now in the integrated review, China isn't an epoch-defining challenge. They are a systemic threat to us, to our friends and neighbors in Europe, to America, to the free world. They are a threat to our values and the way we live our lives, and they are winning that. More nations today are adopting the Chinese form of government than democracy and human rights, and that should worry the hell out of us.
Joining us live from central London, Sir Iain Duncan Smith, thank you for your time.